Let's go ahead and get started here. Welcome again to the webinar, everybody. The title of this webinar is From Google to Green, How to Get More Website Leads and Bump Up Your Close Rate. So I'm really excited to be joined by my friend Ted from Socius here. And Ted's really an expert at helping companies improve visibility on Google searches, improve that website experience to increase conversion. And my name is Josh, and I'm the marketing manager here at Hatch. And our expertise is around, once the conversion happens on the website, what happens after that, right? How do you close those leads and turn them into deals and repeat customers? So that's who we are here at Hatch, and we work really well with Socius. So thanks, Ted, for hopping on here, man.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad that some of the Socius people are getting to meet Hatch for the first time too.
Awesome. So looking at today's attendees, I did a quick inventory this morning. A lot of folks in remodeling, windows, doors, exteriors, solar. So this webinar is going to be tailored to you guys. Those are, Hatch and Socius. We both work in those spaces, and everything that we're going to be sharing today is going to be relevant to the folks here on the line. I see some solar folks. I understand solar is very much up and coming right now. So we're really excited to be working more with solar companies. So it's exciting time in the industry as a whole, and we're going to share some interesting stats that we're seeing with respect to the home improvement industry so far this year. A little bit about Hatch before we get started. Hatch is a messaging platform for home improvement companies, and really what we do here at Hatch is put your lead follow-ups, your rehash, your appointment confirmations all on autopilot. And we do that by combining texting, emailing, calling, all in one messaging platform for your entire team. So really, we're that messaging platform that is going to help your team better communicate with homeowners throughout the entire buying journey, when the lead comes in all the way to after the installation to get that customer review. So really that end-to-end messaging product there for your business. I think we might have lost Ted. Well, we've been working with Socius for quite some time. And Socius, Ted, you want to share a little bit about Socius? Can you hear me? I think we might have lost Ted there, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that. It happened.
We're interested to hear about your business, Ted. All right. While Ted's getting reconnected there, I just want to share a little bit about the partnership that we have here with Socius. Socius is, again, experts at bringing leads through the door through that Google search SEO strategy, along with awesome website. We work with a lot of Socius's customers, and their websites are tremendous and help visitors come through the door and convert. And then Hatch, our job is to help you guys close more leads with that automated follow-ups and two-way conversations. So again, really excited to be partnering with Socius, and with the partnership, we're going to really help you guys not only increase the amount of leads that come in through your website, but also help you close more of those in that process. So at the end of this webinar, that's all you're going to hear about any of our companies, guys. At the end of this webinar, you'll have 4 takeaways that you can bring to your business today. I want you guys to come to the table after this webinar in your business with actionable strategies to not only increase the amount of leads that you bring in your website, but also help you close more of them. That's why the title of this webinar is From Google to Green. So just a little bit about what we're seeing right now with respect to the remodeling industry. These are snapshots that were taken in different months of the year. So back in November 2019, it was forecasted that the remodeling industry would just continue its upward trend. Same thing with February, continue that upward trend. And then April, when lockdown started to happen, there's a lot of uncertainty. The forecast actually was, going to decline at some level here. But what actually ended up happening is when we look at this data in August, we see, a slight decline and then an increase that we're going to see here. So when we look into August 2020, the snapshot here, we're going to see that Q2 of this year had a 7.5% increase in year over year in big ticket projects. So as we see here, that instead of having that dip that was forecasted originally in the beginning of the year, and I'm sure you're seeing this in your business, but we're seeing quite an increase in that, in those big ticket jobs here in Q2. We should see, according to the forecast, a slight slowdown in Q4 and maybe a decline in 2021. But again, it's incredible how the industry has become resilient. People stuck at home, wanting to get more jobs done. It's quite impressive and incredible to see, working with these home improvement companies like you guys. It's just incredible to see how you guys have weathered the storm. And many of our customers have blown through their sales records month over month since COVID hit. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. What are you guys seeing with respect to pre-COVID versus post-COVID levels of business? So I'm going to launch this poll real quick here, and I'm curious to see if your business is below, at, or above where it was pre-COVID. And we'll let this poll bake for a little bit. Wow. Lots of folks with above the pre-COVID levels with their business. That's excellent. 1 below, 2 is about the same. Awesome. Thanks for your participation, guys. Cool. So what we're seeing here in this poll of the attendees here, most of which are remodeling companies, we're seeing exactly what we're seeing with Google search trends here. So they're very much correlated. So if we look here at the Google search trend for remodeling, when lockdowns began, the amount of searches for the search term remodeling on Google increased as well. We see that with roofing as well. So it's quite incredible to see, folks are at home wanting to get more jobs done. That search trend increased as well. And then contractors near me, this one was huge increases. And, what's great about Ted and his firm is that they're, excellent about helping you guys capitalize on this traffic. People are searching for contractors near me. People are searching for remodeling. People are searching for roofers. So it's important that you want to show up first. And that's something that Ted is going to come to the table with, and Socius is experts in. So I'm excited to share you guys some information about that in a bit. So we looked at the poll here. Most of you guys are actually above pre-COVID levels with respect to your business and your revenue. So that's great news, and we hope it continues for you guys through Q4. So unfortunately, Ted looks like he got hopped off of this webinar, but I'm going to do my best to speak to what Ted was talking through today. But it's in running. There's different types of races. I'm a runner myself. Marathons, sprints, relays, 400, 800, all these types of races, and in the home improvement industry, everything is a race. When you're actually trying to handle SEO, go into this digital marketing, and figure out what you need to do for your business. There's so many different factors. You go to a track meet, there's a ton of events. You go in the home improvement space, it seems like there's a ton of different things that you need to be executing on. There's ranking as search engine result page. There's the actual position or positioning on the page. How easily the prospect can know your product. How easily can the prospect know what makes you the right choice? How easily can the prospect know you? Is it easy to convert? All these things are just, they're constantly moving targets. And it's really tough to come up with a strategy to actually hone in and execute on these. And I'm excited. We're going to share you some ways to do that today and to focus on these things. And really the low-hanging fruit is, SEO, making sure your website's optimized for SEO. And SEO is that search engine optimization. It's how Google looks at your site. And then also your website itself, making sure that you're clear on what products you offer. We'll touch on that in a bit. And everyone knows, and a lot of you folks have kids, so I'm sure you're even more familiar with this than I am. But we've got the attention span of a goldfish, right? People are looking for getting work done in their house on their phones. Hopefully they're not driving while they're looking that up, but this guy is. So it's important that you're making sure that you're providing all the information as quickly as possible, whether that be on your search listing on Google or on your website itself. And so, with the attention span being a goldfish, you only have so much time to get your website visitors, your leads, your prospects to be interested in your business and end up filling out that request for an appointment. So you really need to be caring about these leads that are coming in through Google, because a lead from Google, and that means basically they come to your website and they come from your marketing efforts. They're searching for, roofers near me. They clicked on your listing because they want what you do, not because they want what you do, but because they want you and what you do. So they made the conscious choice to A, search for, roofers near me, and then B, hit that link to your site and then go on your site, look through your site, and they've made that conscious decision to choose you over all the other listings in that search and what you do. So it's important that you show up as close to the top as possible on Google, and that your website's super clear on what you do, because again, attention span is a goldfish. And so I like this analogy here that Ted put together. It's like, this is pure gold. Whereas, if you aren't getting leads from Google, what does that say about your visibility, your message, your ease of use? And so you're leaving a lot of revenue, a lot of leads on the table when you're not really making sure you're leveraging Google as a source. And again, I want to go back to the search trends I talked about earlier, guys. People are using Google now more than ever. They're searching, as we saw earlier, these search trends for remodeling, home improvement are going sky high. So it's important that you show up, in that right spot when you're having that executing on a digital strategy. So I touched on a little bit about SEO, and really SEO is search engine optimization. It is where you rank on Google. So when you're looking to improve SEO, looks like Ted's joining back in. Hey, Ted, how you doing? I'm talking through your stuff. I think I'm doing a decent job here.
Good. Isn't it great having to do remote working and webinar and all the things like that? So much fun.
It's incredible. Ted, I was just telling everybody about, the importance of a Google lead. You're leaving revenue on the table if you're not leveraging Google. We were talking about the search trends, how remodeling has shot up, search trends for roofing near me, construction near me, all that stuff is shooting up. So it's important that you show up early and at the top on the Google search results. So this is where I landed, Ted. So you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was alluded to, I think that when it comes to internet, there's using a race analogy and running analogy makes things a lot easier to understand. And there certainly is saying for SEO people that they say SEO is a marathon, not a sprint. The good thing about SEO is that it's the idea is that it's content and it's your rankings and it stays there. If you're doing the right thing, it stays there regardless of what happens. The best way I can summarize it is search engine optimization basically means you're doing something to your website 1 month and trying to make Google like you more the next month. So it's continued improvements or changes. You're just trying to basically make Google like you more is the plan. So in the next slide, it's going to help give an understanding of kind of where Google comes from. Because I think if you have an understanding of what Google does and the way it works with a fresh set of eyes looking at your own website, you start to understand why I show up or I don't show up some other places. So Google's mission statement is pretty clear here. Their mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. It doesn't say anything about trying to figure out or guess or help you. It's about organizing what's there and making it useful. Google is most concerned with the person doing the search, not the company not the person selling things, not the marketing company. They're concerned with the person doing the search. And the way they break down their pages is an acronym they use called EAT, which is shown in the next slide. And it gives you a real good breakdown of kind of how the pages should work and the way a website should work. They want your pages to have expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So what that's trying to take away or adjust for is that there certainly are ways that you can cheat and trick Google. But there's a lot of smart people that work there, and a lot of purpose of the companies to make sure that they're doing, like I said, with their mission statement, just to organize what's there. So what they're looking for is, do you have these things? Are you an expert? Are you an authority on it? And is it trustworthy? And the ways to sort of cheat to the top, every time somebody figures out a way to cheat, Google finds a way to fix that moving forward. So it's best to kind of have the best plan and the best strategy in place. So what I wanted to walk you through was a hypothetical on a contractor. We'll just say he's a roofer or a window guy out of Boston. And the first thing I would say, a first good tip for people that if they haven't done this, is to do what we call a site colon search. So a site colon search is basically you type in that word site, and then you put in a colon and you paste in your website. And that will show you all the pages that Google sees on your website. And this is the first sort of indicator, the first piece that Google's looking for when they're determining, what you do and where they should have you show up. It's because this is what you're presenting to them. These are the pages that make up your website. So taking a step back, like I said, Google is most concerned with making sure that the person who does the search gets the best results. And the way they do this is every once in a while, what will happen is every couple weeks, frankly, Google will send out their spiders and they will comb the entirety of the internet. And eventually they will get to your website, to our window guy in Boston. And they will click on every page, click on every link, take all the information from the entirety of your website and bring it back to Google's headquarters. And what they do is they're going to put each bit of information, think about it, that it's almost going in like a file folder. So what happens is the next time someone does a search, Google isn't searching the internet. They're going to that filing cabinet and they're pulling out the appropriate file folder. That's how that's how they're determining who's showing up where. So it goes back to, like I said, they're organizing. They are not thinking or saying, well, maybe this should go here, or I bet he can work that town over. This is about organizing what you have and putting it in the right place so that when someone needs it, they can get it quickly. So looking at our hypothetical, if we have a contractor who lives in Brookline, Massachusetts, and this is just purely hypothetical, is a 19-minute drive to essentially downtown Boston there, 5 miles away. It stands to reason that a window guy or girl in Brookline probably is serving greater than just the Brookline area and would cover aspects of Boston, 5 miles away. This is the same story you can use in any part of the country. This is multiple states, this is multiple cities, this is town, villages, however you want to think about it. This guy lives in Brookline, but he should be working in the area of Boston. It's a part of his territory. It would make sense, right? What happens is, if you look at the next slide, well, if you just do a search for something like windows in Boston, okay, there's just under 700,000 people that live in Boston, but the scary part isn't the population. It's the number of results you get when looking for windows in Boston. 638 million results, okay? And the other part here is the 0.68 seconds. That's where I said how Google is going to their filing cabinet. When you search for something, Google isn't going to the internet. They already did it. They're running to their filing folder, and they pulled out the Windows Boston folder. And if you're the contractor in Brookline who doesn't have content about Boston, you're not going to be in that Windows Boston folder. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, if you're not telling Google who you are, what you do, and where you do it, it's not Google's job to sort of guess and figure out you might be able to service this area. I think that stands to reason. Now, if you had a very obscure product and you were the only person in the entire state of Massachusetts that could sell windows, well, that'd be one thing. You would probably show up in multiple places. But think about how many good companies, bad companies, Chuck in a Truck, you name it, that are selling windows in Boston, and you're the window guy and you're only 5 minutes away, you're only 5 miles away, you're not going to show up in Boston unless you have the content talking about it. You literally have to essentially give Google, here's the file folder. So what you do and where you want to do it, that's part of the content strategy that needs to be there. That's how SEO works. Now there's certain different pieces to it, like where you show up in the file folder, your reviews, your physical proximity, but it's not Google's job to guess that because you're 5 miles away, you could probably help the people in Boston. You have to tell it, you have to help it, because Google's going to organize what you got. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, I think this really harps on we're going to talk about websites in a bit, I know, but do you recommend companies that service multiple location areas to have like dedicated pages like for each area? Is that a good strategy?
Yeah, it really comes down to, if you want to sell your widget in a specific location, if there's competition in Google for that space, you're not going to show up there by default. So just think about it just in terms of other products. If you sold roofing in Boston, well, your window page certainly wouldn't show up. So why would it stand any different if you had different cities or different states or different territories? And I'm not saying necessarily that you need every single town, village, neighborhood, but if there are pockets, or if there are cities, or if there are villages that are highly profitable, or it's where you do your best work, or it's really where you want to focus, you have to give Google that file folder, because you're not going to show up there just by luck. The only thing Google really has a handle on in terms of proximity is your physical address. Because of your Google My Business, they know where you are, and they'll know if you have multiple locations, if each one is listed. But if you want to rank a town over and a town over and a city over, you have to give Google the content and the property for it to latch onto. So what I would suggest to contractors is do that site colon search. Just take a look at, now it's not a catch-all, it won't necessarily pinpoint every problem, but if you look at your content and it's not talking about the places you want to be, why would Google have it show up there? If you're not giving it to them, they're not going to interpret it. So do that site colon search. Take a look at your content and see where the gaps are. Am I missing products? Did I add sunroom 6 months ago and we haven't added to the website other than one sentence on the homepage? Have we expanded into Philadelphia and we're still not talking about it? Did we never talk about expanding into Philadelphia? Those are the things that you're not necessarily going to rank right away, but if it's not there, it's never going to happen. Make sense?
Love it. Thanks, Ted.
Yeah. So that takes care of sort of one piece here, is I got to get you in front of the right people. But then when we get to the website, and Hatch is a great example of being able to help with this stuff too. It's how do we make this happen quickly, and how do we convert when we're there? So I think sprinting is a pretty good analogy for this too, because it is a speed to lead. This is a race. This is a race on multiple parts here. Average time across multiple sites is about 2 minutes. It doesn't necessarily portray the same way to home improvement, and a blog is going to have sometimes longer times on site. And obviously, if I'm going to Target's website, it's going to be different. But in general, you have about 2 minutes. That's your goldfish time to be able to kind of go through and see these things. And in that 2 minutes, you need to convert. And there's different ways of talking about conversion. And I think this is important. To me, it's not just getting a form fill or the phone call or using a chat feature or downloading the form. It's, are you winning these little battles along the way? Are you able to tell who you are? All these little things. Different things are important to different people. I had a conversation with a contractor of mine who is in New York, And he says, look, I'm a roofer. Do you want it black or do you want it brown? And I offer financing. Those are the three things that anybody ever cares about. And to that point, I would say, that's for you. Like, that's the way you buy things, and I understand that. Like, I'll use a personal example. When we bought a new leather couch, I was concerned with, is it comfortable and is it the shade of brown that I like? Those were the main things I was concerned with. My wife wanted to go to multiple stores, learn about what type of leather, understand the grade of the leather, understand what the warranty is involved. Has a lot more questions that are important to her in the buying process. If the salesperson or the website or whatever we were looking at didn't cover those important things, they may have sold me. They didn't sell my wife. And why not have these multiple aspects? It's, once again, take your hat off as an owner and look at it from a different perspective. Take a step back. Are you using terms like, squares? Roofers talk about squares. Homeowners don't. That's not a term that we should be using, for example. So I wanted to walk you through a client, Reborn Cabinets. And these are the fundamentals that I think are pretty important on anyone's website. And there are bits and pieces that you can get from here, and you may have some of these, and you may have more than that, but it's important to sort of understand that has each one of these. Reborn Cabinets is a fantastic company, has been with us for years, and I know they're a Hatch client too. The fundamentals to a website is this idea of being able to tell a story of your company, not just the products. You are more than the siding, the roofing shingles, or the certification, or the platinum, or anything like that. Is the site easy to use? And that comes down to that speed thing. You don't want a site to be difficult. You want to have pieces that are easy to get a hold of, make it possible for people to convert. Does it have a good offer? We'll talk about that in a second. Is it easy to convert? And does it do on a mobile device? All super important pieces. So touching on the first one, telling a story of your company, not just the products. The Reborn Cabinets, now I will say that they have some fantastic video and some fantastic branding, but it's always been a part of kind of who they are, talking about this product, and just as important as the people. And the website branding is throughout their website. Feel free to take a look after this at Reborn Cabinets. They have a fantastic website, heavy emphasis on the family business, but the important things here is that the website feels like it's truly their product. It really represents them and what they do, to the point where I think you could almost cover up their logo and still you would have past people that have used them, employees being able to identify, oh, this is Reborn. It's beyond just having your logo. One of the typical things I see, Josh, is a roofer has like a roofing logo and it's Ted's Roofing. It's hard to stand out, like when that's all that you see. And it's not just a fix of a logo. It's not just putting photos. It's telling the story of who you guys are as a company. Why should I give you my dollars? I want to get a good deal, but I also want to work with a company that I trust and believe in, and possibly doing other things throughout the community, and that I know my dollars are going to something more important. That leads to the next section, number 2, which focuses on ease of navigation. Okay, so you got to think about your website from the ease of use. And in a perfect world, when people get to your website, they would just pick up the phone and call. Not the case. We know that's not the case. People are shopping around, people are looking. What you want to do is try to make your website as easy as possible to navigate. Is it easy to find things? Is it easy to click on things? Does it clearly list your services? Do I have to click through 7 different layers to get what I'm interested in, to where I'm lost and frustrated and I'm just going to go to the next one down the page? Make things easier for people to get a hold of. So it clearly lays out what products they have: cabinet, bathroom, windows, doors. And then the other pieces, the less sales funnel pieces, they're on another layer of the navigation, so that we're focusing on what the person's probably most interested in. Reborn Cabinets wants to sell cabinetry. Let's not hide it on the website. You can see on the next slide, what you have is the continued secondary level of navigation. So a lot of times people think of their website, especially from an owner's perspective, and start from the home page and work their way into a website. And that's an important perspective because a lot of times people land on their home page. But you also need to think about this from an SEO perspective. And I'll use Windows, for example. If I want a bay window, and I know that I have a bay window, wouldn't it make sense that I'm searching for bay windows? You know, using my running analogy, I'm not going to randomly search the term running shoes if I want, you know, ones that have spikes in it. I know if I'm specific and know that I need size 13 and I want them to be black and I want them to have spikes, well, I'm going to look for that. And the company that has that clearly laid out, it's going to be much easier for me to do business than landing on, you know, shoes.com and having to try to find my way through everything. So be specific about the types of products you have and what it sells, and think about it from two different directions. Can somebody find specifically the product that they're looking for from the content, and can they find the product that they're looking for if they were start from the home page and kind of work their way through the journey? I think that covers the navigation piece pretty easily. Makes sense. You just want to make sure you have a clear look at that when you look at it. Offers, okay? I would highly, highly recommend that everybody, at a bare minimum, has an open form like this. This open form that talks about half off installation serves a couple of purposes, okay? There are, like I said, be great if everybody just picked up the phone. That is not always going to happen. We know that's not the case. You have some people that are going to fill out a form, and they could do it for different reasons. You know, you can buy a car through texting. It's pretty easy to do now. The idea that you have to talk to somebody to get the ball rolling just isn't true. And you need to think about this too, that a lot of times people are at work. You know, they may not want to talk on the phone at 10 o'clock in the morning when they're doing something that they shouldn't on work hours. So having an open form makes things a lot easier. And by not hiding it too, having the form easy to get to, easy to see. And then to the secondary piece to that is putting in an offer, you know, so half off installation. I don't know how much the project is going to cost, but just all things being equal, if you're half off installation and the other guy just says, hey, contact us, I'm more than likely going to be filling out the half off installation. Doesn't have to be something that affects your bottom line. You know, it can be free computer renderings. It can be towels with the bathroom makeover, whatever the case, but give some incentive for people to reach out to you other than, hey, here's the form. You can talk to me that way too. I think it's certainly going to help. The next piece related to offers here is touching on them specific to the product. So I don't mean to harp on roofers, but this is the one I see a lot with roofers is, you know, it's Ted's Roofing Company. Ted's Roofing Company has a pitch of a roof in their logo, and 99% of my website talks about roofing. And then I have one paragraph that says, oh yeah, I also do windows. Now, if I'm solely interested as a prospect in getting windows, it doesn't really seem to make sense that I would probably reach out to Ted's Roofing. If it doesn't seem important to you as the business owner, why should I give you my business and my hard-earned dollars? So by separating with specific offers and being able to put an equal emphasis on your other products, it allows for, you know, more equal weighting. It feels that windows are just as important as Ted's Roofing, you know, roofing products are. It gives that equal weight, and it makes it feel much more trustworthy and able to make that transition to giving you my information to then have you try to sell people. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Easy to convert. We live in a world where we don't want to have to work real hard. That's just the reality of what it is. And you think about the way websites function, like let's use Amazon, for example. Amazon gives you multiple ways to find what you're looking for, buy it, come back to it the last time you saw it, give you additional offers with it. You don't have to do a lot of work to give Amazon your money. Think about your website in the same way. I'm not saying that's stuff that they're going to buy, but eliminate friction, you know? So for example, on Reborns, when you scroll down, the menu is a sticky menu and it stays with you. So that if I'm 9/10 of the way down the page, I can access any other part of the website, and on that big orange button, I can schedule an appointment. Don't make me scroll back up to the top, go over to your contact us page, do a math problem at the bottom to prove I'm not a robot. Like, make things easier on people, eliminate friction, make it more conducive to the sales process by letting them get in touch with you easier. I think that's incredibly important. And in this case, Reborn has a great offer too, where they put in multiple types of offers to give people different ways of working their way through the sales funnel. But frankly, I think the most important one is that sticky menu with that schedule an appointment. Don't take away the people's ability to get in touch with you. It makes things a lot easier. The next section we'll talk about here is on mobile. Okay, so we get it. Everybody's on mobile. I'm sure there are people right now that are on their phones. We multitask. That's the way it is. You're at a stoplight, you're pulling out your phone. We're past the stage where, you know, your website needs to work on the phone. That's a given. It should be easy. It should be workable. You shouldn't have to pinch and pull. You shouldn't have to do a lot of work. Frankly, when we design websites, so we'll do design, the SEO, pay-per-click, whatever the case, but when we're designing, we're almost designing two separate websites, the desktop version and then the mobile version. And the mobile version is just as, if not more important at this point. It has the same information, has the same imagery, it has the same, you know, functionality to it, but on mobile, it's going to function more like an app. And that's the way everything else does on your phone. Going back to my Amazon thing, it's even easier to do it on your phone, it seems like. You can hit the buy now button. So on Reborns, you have the sticky menu on the phone. You have a click to call that you can touch at any point. And then we have these buttons at the bottom so that you can get in touch with, as you scroll through the site, you can still access any piece that you want to get in touch with in terms of scheduling an appointment. And then just take it one step further. When we met with Google at their headquarters, they were talking about one of the more frustrating things they see is the way that forms work. And think about how annoying I think this is too, is, you know, if you're typing in a name, first name, last name, that should be the keyboard, the alphabet keyboard. If I'm putting in a zip code or a phone number, make it easier on people. Have it be the actual phone number piece. The easier you make things, the smoother this is going to go. You want to just, like, I keep harping on the word eliminating friction, but it's important. You know, like, you could give me something for free, but if the form's difficult and I have to submit a whole lot of information, I'm going to give up, and you're going to shut off and go to the next site. And this is, you're trying to give these people your money. Let's make it a little easier for them to work through the process. So those are the 5 things that I think every website should have. And those are the things you want to start looking for and start working towards and start fixing. But I wanted to sort of tie this all back into running, which I've gotten more into. Josh and I were talking about this before too. And I'll just harp on a couple of these. So would a pair of new running shoes make you an Olympic relay racer? Absolutely not. So why would having a beautiful website with no strategy that's buried on page 5 help you achieve your goals? It's not going to. You have to kind of tie all these pieces together. One great website that no one can find is still a lost website. Strategy is just as important to make sure it's getting people to the site. Along the same lines, would running barefoot hinder your ability to be an Olympic relay racer? Obviously, that's the case. And that then lines up with, so having the right tools, like an SEO strategy, would help, right? It's not going to make you an Olympic person, but obviously shoes and the tools of the trade are going to be helpful. Does an Olympic relay racer need a coach? I mean, I can run. Do I need a coach? Well, they all do. Clearly, there's some value to it. So why are you trying to do this all on your own? I use this analogy a lot with contractors is, look, as a homeowner, I should be allowed to pick the color of my roof. I get to pick between the shingles and I get to pick the style. But I should not be the person swinging the hammer because it is not my specialty. It's not what I'm great at. I get to pick certain aspects of it. Much like you as a business owner, you know what you do and where you want to do it. Doesn't mean you should have to do this all or should try to do it all on your own. And certainly doesn't mean you should neglect it because you don't know how. So the last point that I would hit on here is, you know, what would happen if you had a team that was the 3 best relay racers in the world, and the 4th person is somebody who couldn't walk to the mailbox? This talks to, I think, a product like Hatch, where I can make your website pretty. I can get people to the site. You can have a great sales team. You can have the ability to communicate with them. You can have great follow-up, great rehash. You can have all these pieces, but they got to tie together in order to be successful. Because if one's terrible, it's going to bog down your ability to be successful as a whole. And I think that's where a product like Hatch can make a ton of sense. Because like I said, I can make the website work, and I can get people there, and I can get them to convert, but there's still a lot of places for somebody to drop the baton, and Hatch definitely fills in pieces like that. So that's my thought process on web design and the things that sort of need to be in there. Josh, I'll kick it back over to you. Maybe I could cover a couple of your slides since you covered mine.
Sure. Let's start with this question. I love it, Ted. No, thanks for that. Thanks for that intel there. I mean, looking through, getting folks through the door, that's so unbelievably important. And I love the analogy with the running. As a runner, I'm geeking out right now. Once you get people through your website and get them to this form, which is the form that we showed earlier, you got to have a process and strategy in place to close more of these leads. They click start your project. Now what, right? What strategy do you have in place to follow up with those leads? What strategy do you have in place to handle those leads after you do the appointment? How do you handle that install process? How do you handle the post-sale process? All that stuff is so very important for that whole customer journey. That starts when that customer is searching on Google for their project, like we talked about earlier. So it all ties together, and that's why we're really excited to work with Socius, because Socius helps you guys on that top of funnel, getting leads through the door, and then we help you close more of these with effective messaging. But what we found here at Hatch is if you focus on speed to lead, if you focus on following up with new leads that come in on your website, come in through your paid lead sources, all those things, and you focus on rehash, which is that sales follow-up process after the quote is given. If you focus on just these 2 things, guys, we found that on average, contractors are increasing their close rate anywhere from 8 to 10%. I've seen it go up to 15, 16%, but generally on average, 8 to 10% if you focus on 1, speed to lead, immediately following up with new leads that come in on your website or any of your lead sources, and then rehash, that professionalized sales follow-up after the quote is given. And so what I'm going to focus on today, guys, in the next 10 minutes is how to implement these speed to lead and rehash strategies in your business today using effective messaging. We know what messaging works. We've worked with hundreds of contractors. We've seen what messaging helps deals close. We've seen what messaging helps the folks set more appointments. And I'm going to share with you guys some messaging strategies using Reborn as an example, because Reborn is a shared client of both of ours. One interesting stat that came out from our friends at Modernize is that you are 21 more times more likely to close a deal if you respond to a new lead that comes on your website in less than 5 minutes. So if you are first to the lead, your likelihood of closing that deal is going to increase 21 times. That's incredible. So they're on Google, they're searching for roofers near me or remodelers near me. They probably are pulling up 4, 5, 6, 7 different tabs, and they might be filling out 4, 5, 6, 7 different appointment request forms. You got to be first to the lead. You got to set that appointment. And that's been a challenge that I've seen with a lot of contractors before implementing a strategy to increase that speed to lead, is getting these appointments set. And I'm going to share with you guys some quick strategies in place here. 9 out of 10 homeowners want to have two-way text conversations with your business. So with that in mind, when a lead comes in on your website or comes in from any of the lead sources that you pay for, make sure you start with text, and you start with text as fast as possible, because text has a 98% open rate and has a much higher response rate than phone, email, or Facebook. So what we recommend to folks is that they start with text and use every other channel to get leads to respond, and then eventually set the appointment. And I'm going to touch on this with respect to the example that I showed you earlier with the Reborn Cabinets design consultation form. So as soon as a lead comes in, it's important that you're texting them, emailing, and calling them. Some folks only want to talk over email. We've seen that. Some folks only want to talk over text. Some folks are just phone centric. All they want to do is talk on the phone. But for the most part, we've seen text to be the most effective. So start with text and then follow up with email and call on that the first day as soon as the lead comes in. That way you can have an understanding of how your lead wants to engage with you, how that homeowner wants to engage with you. Do they want to text you? Do they prefer email, or do they prefer phone calls? Then on day 2, you send a follow-up text. So if they don't respond the first time, make sure that you're following up on the second day. And then the third day, what we found effective is surfacing an offer on your website that you already have there, or another separate offer. So it's important that you're following up with them, not just through texting, but you're also combining that email piece as well as the calling piece, because you want to make sure that you're, where your customers are. They're on their phones. Make sure you're texting them, high open rate. Email, some folks prefer email. So just make sure you're engaging with them. You're collecting that information on your form anyways. So let's leverage that in your communication strategy. And then on day 7, a week later, I call it the Hail Mary, and we'll touch on these messaging strategies in a bit. But this is, hey, like, you requested an appointment. Is there even any interest here? Or should we follow up, a few months down the line? So we've got this whole messaging playbook. Just go to usachapp.com/playbook. You'll be able to see all these messaging strategies. I'm going to provide an example right now with respect to Reborn and their speed to lead here. So Ted is filling out a form here, design consultation. We're going to text him immediately. And with Hatch, you can do this automatically with our speed to lead feature of Hatch's messaging product. So we connect up to your web forms, your lead sources to instantly engage with those leads. But if you don't have a product like Hatch, make sure that you're following up, instantly. You have somebody on your email, making sure they're following up with those new leads that come in, and that you're also personalizing it. So notice how Ted, we talked to him by name. We recognize that he's interested in new cabinets, so we bring in that he's interested in cabinets. And then the day that he requested the appointment, which was the 7th of September at 11 a.m. So make sure that you're surfacing all the information in the form in your immediate follow-up, and make sure that it's personalized. That's absolutely critical. And if they don't respond, make sure you're following up the next day. Again, a lot of folks set it and forget it. They'll send a text message and say, well, they didn't respond to me, they must not be interested. No, sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touch points to get somebody to respond. So our follow-up is, I want to follow up on your appointment request. Does this day and time still work for you? And eventually they got a response. Yes, it does. Thanks for following up. We respond and say, yeah, of course. We'll send a confirmation on the day of the appointment. So it's important that you're, again, immediately following up with the lead as soon as they come in. Speed to lead is important. If you're not first, you're last. Engage with text, email, phone, leave voicemails. Do whatever you need to do to set that appointment. Because the more appointments set, the more jobs you close, and the more money you have in your bank, frankly. So that's the speed to lead piece, guys. Again, super important. Ted talked about all these awesome strategies to get leads coming on your website. It would suck if they fill out the form and you don't even set the appointment. So it's so important, guys, that your speed to lead is in check. Make sure you're as fast as possible to get to those leads, and Hatch, we can help you with that. So what happens after you set the appointment? You run the appointment, you give them the quote, and they go dark. Well, it's time to rehash. And rehash is that professional sales follow-up after the quote is given. And we've got some key, I guess you could say, recommendations for executing on rehash. The first is follow up 48 hours after the quote is given. You provide the quote over email or text or however you're in paper, however you're providing your quote, make sure that you're following up 48 hours after. With Hatch, you can actually automate that because we connect up to your CRM and can listen to those statuses and then kick off a message 48 hours later. So it's important that you make a note to follow up 48 hours after the quote's given. The next piece is, again, like I talked about before, if at all possible, try to automate a lot of this stuff. Pen and paper is not very scalable, especially as right now with you guys are so busy right now. It's really important that you're trying to automate as much as possible. And again, increase that engagement with messaging, not just using texting, but also calling and emailing as well. Surface that quote up. And the goal here with rehash is not necessarily to close the deal. That's of course the end goal. But the initial goal is to understand the objection. Why haven't they responded to the quote? What is the objection here? And then figure out who should handle that objection. We'll walk through an example with Reborn in a minute. The last piece is have visibility. A lot of folks on the line here are sales managers, they're owners. It's important you understand how your reps are engaging with the homeowner so that you're able to understand what works and what doesn't when it comes to customer engagement. So again, visibility and accountability. And I'm proud to work for a company that provides all these things and has really changed the game for home improvement companies. An 8 to 10% increase in close rate just by implementing rehash and speed to lead. I mean, that turns into, for a lot of companies we worked with, $3-4 million in the bank every year. It's incredible. So I can't stress this enough. And we touched on the follow-up earlier, guys, about using texting, emailing, and calling multiple days. So I won't harp on this. But again, go to our website, check out some strategies. We have a great blog, great team that puts together some messaging strategies that are very effective for contractors today. So I encourage you to check out our website and dig into those and implement those in your business. This is an example of a Reborn rehash campaign that they're running inside of Hatch. So 48 hours after the quote is given, they're automatically kicking out a text message to the homeowner to surface up, any objections that they may have had as a result of the quote that they received. So we start off by saying, "Hey Ted, this is Josh with Reborn Cabinets. I see you had an appointment recently, and I wanted to see if you had any questions. Any reason to not move forward?" Again, rehash is professionalized sales follow-up. So not only are you following up with them 48 hours after you give the quote, but you're also following up after the first follow-up. So you can't just set it and forget it. Just like when a new lead comes in on your website or Home Advisor, Angie's List, Modernize, whatever you're using, it's important to continue to follow up until they respond. And what's cool about Hatch is we've got this really cool artificial intelligence that is able to stop the user, or stop the homeowner from receiving text when they respond. So until they respond, Hatch will continue to reach out and try to surface these objections through this multi-step campaign. So I think that's a really cool feature that we have here at Hatch. On the second attempt, the copy that's really worked for contractors today is, "Hey Ted, this is Josh with Reborn Cabinets again. I want to make sure that you have all the information you need to make a decision. We want to earn your business. How can I help?" And then this actually got a response where the homeowner said price was higher than we expected. That's very common. I see some solar folks on the line. We see price being a very big objection in the solar space. Remodeling, it's pretty high as well, but also product choice is a big objection that we see with remodelers. So anyways, rehash is just so important for you to get the objection here. Again, we're able to jump in, make sure that it's handled with the right person. Typically, sales managers are more experienced, of course, at handling these type of objections. So make sure you're tagging in the sales manager or whoever can be best handling these type of objections. And in this example, they say, "Due to recent interest rate cuts, we're offering $0 down, 0% interest, and no payments for two full years. Would that be of interest?" And that's actually the same offer that Ted showed earlier on the Reborn website. We're just resurfacing it. They might have filled out the form really fast. They didn't really, maybe they may have forgotten about the offer that is offered on the website. Just make sure you're resurfacing those offers that you have in your business today. And then, of course, give me a call. Then you want to hop on the phone. So just a success story about how Reborn, they're the number 27 remodeler in the U.S. according to Qualified Remodeler just this year, and they're based in Southern California. And before they implemented rehash in their business, and they used Hatch to implement this, sales follow-up was all manual. Reps were using their phone, setting reminders on their phone. They had pen and paper on notepads. It was very much a manual process for them. And after they implemented a rehash strategy in their business, like I touched on before, that multi-touch, automated, it allowed them to increase the second appointments, those appointments set from rehash, by 53%, and their close rate increased 59%. So I can't stress the importance of not just being first to the lead, but also making sure that even if a quoted lead doesn't buy, it doesn't mean they're saying no. You just need to make sure you follow up, service the objection, handle the objection, and then your likelihood of closing them is going to shoot up dramatically. And in their case, close rate increased 59%. So really incredible stuff here. They're a great company, great success story here. And you can see the ROI for yourself. Just go to our website. You can see how much you'll make with rehash. Just put in your numbers, and you'll see how much money you can make with rehash. And then you can make a choice if you want to use Hatch to help you with that rehash program there for your business. So use hatchapp.com/ROI. 4 takeaways, Ted. We promised 4 takeaways in the beginning, so let's deliver on them.
Yeah, absolutely. My first one is, like it says here, make sure your website focuses on what you do and where you do it. If it is missing products or it's missing the location, you're not going to rank for that product or that location. So take the ownership hat off and look through your website and see what's missing. And whatever is missing needs to get added to the site. So take a temperature check on the website. Number 2, conversion requirements are different for different people. So what sells you as probably a high type A personality, being an owner of a home improvement company, is going to be different than what may sell my mom. So having different ways of conversion, different points of entry, working people through the sales funnel through different ways is going to be important. To you, it may be brown or black roof, we're good to go. For me, it may be, I want to know what you're doing, how many employees you have, pictures of the employees, is there financing offers, are you certified platinum, whatever those pieces are. It's not going to hurt by having that information be a part of your website.
I love that, Ted. And once you get the folks on your website and filling out that form, Socius can help you guys with that. You want to make sure you get to the lead as fast as possible, beat the competition. Like Ricky Bobby says, if you ain't first, you're last. The last piece, I always have to throw that in there. Rehash requires consistency. Guys, I mean, and like I shared with Reborn, traditionally before was all a manual process. Oftentimes quoted leads weren't getting followed up on, and we see this all the time when we start working with customers. And then they implement something like Hatch to automate that rehash process in their business, and guys, you're going to see that close rate increase. Working with the Socius, you're going to see that conversion rate increase. All those new leads are going to increase. Working with Hatch is going to help you increase that close rate. So with that said, we're happy to show you guys more around our solutions, Hatch, Socius, and kind of learn about your business and how we might be able to help. So if you are interested in learning more about Hatch, Socius, both of our companies, we work really well together. When Socius builds website forms, we connect directly up with those, so we can instantly engage with them, and that's really where the integration piece of it ties in there. So if you're interested in learning more about Hatch or Socius, fill out the poll there that showed up on your screen, and we'll reach out and get in touch and see if we can help.
Yeah, and while that's people are filling that out, with Socius, it's not necessarily that you always need a website. My goal is ultimately to help you get more leads. If the website's good, hey, we can move on to the marketing. If your website needs to be taken out back and shot, we can talk about that and figure that out too. So we'll work through a full evaluation of kind of what's going on and see how's the best way to help and what your goals are for, the rest of this year and aiming at 2021.